Hello there, what is going on, everybody? We've got news regarding Ministravaganza, its release date, and what is going to be covered. We're going to talk about that today. While it is only a little bit, it is very telling because it does represent a departure from the way AMG has been doing things in years past. Let's talk about this today. Also, reminder, if you're new here to the channel, we are doing giveaways all the time. There's a new round of the $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my other videos. It's as simple as that. I would love to hear your thoughts about everything that we're going to talk about today. What are you thinking about Ministravaganza? What are some of the things you're looking to see? Is there any hopes or expectations, things you want to be spoiled? Are you looking for Gungans or anything crazy like that? Notice that I didn't say I was looking for Gungans. I'm asking you if you want those. But of course, I'm, gungo for Gungans, right? What are we going to see spoiled? Atomic Mass Games has announced that November 15th, 2025 will be Ministravaganza this year. They had not put out a date for a while. They had been hinting that it would be in the fall, and recently they have published this to their social media platforms. And of course, they're going to be talking about their games. They've dropped X-Wing and Armada, so it's really going to be the big three, which are Marvel Crisis Protocol, Star Wars Legion, and Star Wars Shatterpoint. If we go back to their recent announcements at Adepticon, there was surprisingly little in the way of new content announced for these games. I'll start with Shatterpoint, which is, certainly I think I'm beginning to wonder if there was much new planned for this game at all, considering that there was only 2 new expansions announced at Adepticon, which is their biggest event of the year. It's usually the time when they're going to be announcing a lot of stuff. Now, they did say that we are going to be seeing big reveals, new game content, and roadmaps. So we will see roadmaps. One of the things that comes with roadmaps, though, even if there's not a lot of new content, is a roadmap of reprints and new starter boxes, and sometimes it's also new card packs for the games and new scenarios and things and different ways to play existing games. And I know that's one of the things that they were looking at doing with Shatterpoint. There was talk of possibly making a 4-player variant of Shatterpoint and things like that, or at least an official version of stuff like that, because you can always, turn any of these games into a multiplayer game if you're willing to homebrew it a little bit. But it's interesting to see a 4-player version come out, and it'd be also interesting to see if there's ways that they can impact Shatterpoint to make it a little bit more distinct from other games, because of the fact that it has so much of the same miniatures that Legion has. Granted, they're, a little bit larger, but also it kind of resembles Crisis Protocol in a lot of ways, outside of gameplay. At least it looks like Crisis Protocol and Legion were sort of combined, and I feel like one of my thoughts is that it's always kind of been too samey, and it needs more ways to stand out if it were going to really shine. And at least for me, it hasn't shined. So it'd be interesting to see if they can do something with Shatterpoint to make it sort of stand apart from the other games a little bit more. I do expect a lot from Marvel Crisis Protocol. Marvel Crisis Protocol did not get a lot of coverage at Adepticon, and they did have a big part of the presentation. But when I say they didn't get a lot of coverage, I should refine that to say they didn't get a lot of new product coverage. There were certainly, there was definitely some new product. There was, I want to say, like maybe 7 or 8 things, but it was kind of just one portion of the slideshow. Whereas most of, I think the lion's share of Marvel Crisis Protocol, they kind of have something in common with Legion in that this was a rebuilding year. In that Marvel Crisis Protocol had seen products that were out of print or unavailable. They had seen, a lot of need for additional ways for new players to get into the game, additional starter options, and so they announced a lot of that. There seemed to be a big focus of this past year at Adepticon for both Crisis Protocol and Legion. So I do expect that with those roadmaps and those new starters kind of being announced, they may talk a little bit about those if they have any updates on those timelines and things like that. But I do expect to see some new stuff with Marvel Crisis Protocol. I would be really surprised if we didn't see the Fantastic Four finally announced, especially with the movie and all of the hype, and Fantastic Four skins have been coming out for all these games like Marvel Rivals and Fortnite and things like that. I think we're long overdue for the Fantastic Four in Marvel Crisis Protocol. So that's my prediction this year, is that we're going to see Fantastic Four for MCP. Onto Star Wars Legion. Again, also I'm going to echo a lot of what we talked about with Adepticon. Most of the Adepticon presentation for Legion was all about the reprints. We knew this was coming. They were reprinting, or at least the attempt was to reprint the entire line into hard plastic. They failed to meet that exactly on the timeline, in that some of the reprints, I think they finally just said, we're not going to be able to get everything in hard plastic, and we don't want, certain critical expansions to be out of print for like a couple years while we get it all sorted out. So some things will be coming in soft plastic still, at least for right now, until they get done. So again, that's going to be a long process. But for the most part, I expect to see some more maybe sculpts, because out of the stuff that is coming in hard plastic, it has been reprinted. It's only a certain fraction of the line. It's not the entire line. Granted, a lot of the line was already in hard plastic. Not all of it needs new sculpts, whereas some of it that was already in hard plastic got new sculpts anyway. But some things are we still haven't seen yet, and it'll be interesting to see, what they want to show us. If they're doing fancy new poses with a lot of things, certain characters got new poses that I don't think really needed them, like Krennic, for example, who's coming with that 4-pack of Imperial officers. I'm like, why did we need a new version of Krennic? That is given the peace sign, right? It almost looks like people are gonna. I talked about this in my Discord. He's holding up 2 fingers like this. He's doing the whole this close thing from Rogue One when he was talking to Galen Erso. We were this close, but when you give me a mini that's doing this, people are going to cut off the 1 finger. And when I unbox this thing, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do it. I'm just letting you know I'm gonna do it. It's because I like the old Krennic model better. I don't like Krennic with the hat. Like he's wearing that hat for like 2 seconds ever. I'm not running him like that as my Legion, but I'm definitely going to cut the 1 finger off. And it's just, how can you not do it? Let me know if you agree. Look, give me a miniature that's doing this to my opponent, and I'm going to cut 1 finger off. It's just 100%. I don't even think I'll be in the minority like that. I bet you everybody's going to do that. I don't know. We'll see. There's other things you could do. You could put a cigar in there or something like that, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm sure other people come up with some really cool options. I'm going with the low-hanging fruit. I'm definitely doing that. Okay, so let's talk about some other things that we know we're going to see at Ministravaganza, and some things we expect to see. So we've already seen Maul teased at Gen Con in the glass case. So, of course, I'm sorry, not Maul, but Maul's brother, Savage Opress. We've seen Savage Opress teased. And he talked about that he will be in a 4-pack with Count Dooku and Asajj Ventress and Savage Opress and a mystery 4th character. There have been so many speculations. My thought was Mother Talzin. That's my guess, and I'm going to stick with that for right now. But there's a lot of other really good guesses, like Jango Fett. I don't think it'll be Jango. Some lesser known, because I think Jango sells well on his own. Jango will be the selling point behind a whole nother expansion, so I don't think they need to put him here. I think you could do Jango with some bounty hunters. I think you could do Jango with Aura Singh and Lats Razi and stuff like that. I think you can do all of those things. I think you've easily got options for like lesser important characters. And it could be Wat Tambor. It could be a Neomoidian. Like there's a lot of things that fit into that that would really work. So it could be interesting to and there's been a lot of great suggestions. But beyond that, I do think we'll see some other spoilers. I think we'll see big things for Legion for my predictions. I do expect maybe some talk about battle forces. They talked about big reveals. I think the games that are going to get big reveals are probably going to be Marvel Crisis Protocol and Legion. And, again, Legion could finally get Gungans. This might be the time. I know that I'm not supposed to say Gungans, right? This is like, and if you're new here to the channel, the reason I say this is because it's a joke. Because every time it seems like they're going to get announced, they put the art for them in the rule book. Every time it seems like they're going to get announced, they don't. And there's been jokes that like every time you say it, they push it back 3 more months. So, I'm not supposed to say it. So I'm going to, if that's true, I'm going to say it like Gungans, 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 Gungans. Let's see if it gets pushed back like, a couple years now. I don't think so. No, but realistically, they did up a bunch of art for them, and everything fits. Their battle forces, they just fit perfectly in the game. They put the art in the rule books as if they were about to show up. And then last year, it was like the 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace. It would have been the perfect time. My estimation is that they are ready, and they've also confirmed that they're working on them. So it's not even like a, of course they're coming. My guess is that it had something to do with licensing and there was some pushback or something. Maybe something had to get retooled, or maybe they just weren't ready yet. And that has been the case. I also expect to see Geonosians get a little bit more. We were promised the Geonosian Battle Force. That never came, largely because there weren't enough Geonosian units to really make them stand apart from the Separatist faction as a whole. The Geonosian kind of tech right now works with like B2s and or other things that aren't Geonosians. So if you were to just run only Geonosians, it wouldn't really work out all that good. You need something more to make Geonosians fighting completely independently as their own battle force really stand out. Like turrets or maybe zombies or something like that. Zombies would be a cool thing. Of course, that takes us into my recent videos and talks about a Dathomir battle force. I expect to see something about that. I don't know if that'll be at Ministravaganza, but that would be a really exciting thing also. I do expect to see a little bit more card previews for things that we've already seen, like the mounted commanders, the mounted heroes, Grievous on his bike, his other little droids on their bikes. Of course, we don't have release dates for them yet, but I'm sure they'll be coming soon. Han and Luke on Tauntauns. Are we going to see any other hints? I do think I'd love to see a spoiler for Thrawn's card. We know that those guys are coming sooner rather than later. So I'd love to see some stuff like that. But I'd love to see some new product announcements as well. And some things. I think one of the things they want to do here is to whet your appetite for Adepticon next year. Apparently that's going to be really, really big, although it's hard to take that at face value because I know that they had said previous years that this past year's Adepticon was going to be amazing and all this other stuff that they want to talk about. And granted, it's just reprints. Now, not to say that reprints are a bad thing. They're definitely a good thing for the health of the game. They're just not as exciting when you already have this stuff if you're an existing player. It's cool because it means other people can get into the game, and then there's new sculpts that you can get. But it's not, to me, it's not as exciting as a whole wave of all new stuff. But some of it was very exciting. The custom commanders, the custom heroes that are coming, I think we're definitely going to get a deep dive into those because those represent a whole new type of unit with different cards. And a lot of these card names, like some of the Jedi card names, are in Battle Force documents. I think we're going to learn like how you would build a custom commander. A lot of interesting stuff like that. I think all of that is coming. I want to talk about something that makes this Ministravaganza way different than every other one, is the fact that it's only one day. This is a very big change and a huge departure from all of the other Ministravaganzas that we've seen, in that they've always been 3 days. They've always been like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I've always like taken off of work so I could sit down and do the watch party. And I'll do a watch party for this too. So if you're wanting to watch, you can hang out with us. We'll start the stream before this starts, and we'll end afterwards. If it's on a Saturday, I'm curious if it's going to be like sunrise to sunset. How are they going to fit 3 days worth of content into one day? Well, that's an interesting question. I've got my own speculation. The easy answer is they're probably not doing painting streams. That's one of the things that they really filled up Ministravaganza with, was a lot of painting streams. If you have been following AMG's Twitch or following their social media postings, they have not been doing painting streams anymore. They haven't done any. I don't think they've done any this year. It seems like the painting streams cut out around the same time that Armada and X-Wing cut out. And I wonder if those two things were linked together. I don't know if they've made any official statements about it. I certainly haven't seen any. But if the rumors about the loss of the pre-painted license is true, it may have extended beyond just pre-painted and might have a lot to do with painted. Maybe they're not allowed to do any painting streams anymore due to a change in the way that the license sits. It would be an interesting thing. But that's just speculation. I don't know. But it's not speculation that they haven't done painting streams, because they haven't done any painting streams. And now with this, having 3 days worth of stuff that they used to do condensed into one day is definitely an interesting thing. I'm curious if it's just going to be 3 streams, like a Shatterpoint, a Marvel Crisis Protocol, and a Legion stream. That's what I'm guessing it will be. It'll just be 3 different things. It would be weird for them to, because when they were doing painting streams, they would do like, oh, we're going to do opening ceremonies, and then we're going to do a painting stream. Then we're going to be like, here's all the Star Wars Legion stuff that we're going to talk about for this new battle for, and then painting stream, MCP, but they would bounce all over the place. But if you're not doing any painting streams, there's no reason to bounce all over the place. Just talk about one game, talk about the next game, and then talk about the third game. That would be pretty cool if they do it that way. We'll see. And if so, that'll be a whole lot to cover. I'll probably just cover the Legion content because I think most of, at least as far as doing the watch party, I think we'll hit the cliff notes and we'll talk about all the other games and we'll do a wrap-up video, because what I typically do is I'll do a watch party. We start out ahead of time, then we do the entire watch party, and I'll turn off my mic. We'll watch together and we can chat about it, and you can watch over on their Twitch as well. But I like having it in multiple places, primarily because if they have technical difficulties, like if they cut out for you, but they don't cut out for somebody else, you can watch it in multiple, in a different place. Or sometimes things don't get uploaded, so it's good to have a copy, or in case they drop a super cool reveal and then like we need to edit that out, and I'm like, haha, but we got it over here, right? So there's there's some advantage in doing that, but it's also so we can just talk without having to be like censored, also because there have been times where like you ask a question about Armada and then they ban you or lock you out of chat or something like that. So they have to moderate very heavily for probably for licensing reasons, and we don't have to do that here. So that's another reason. But yeah, so we don't have a schedule yet. I guess we'll get one as we get closer. Now, if you're looking at that date, November 15th, don't worry, that is not on Thanksgiving weekend. That is the Saturday before people will be leaving for Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is going to be on the 27th. So if you had holiday plans and thought you were going to be on an airplane or something like that, going to visit family when this was happening, don't worry, it's not going to interfere with your Thanksgiving plans, most likely, unless you happen to be flying on that day anyway, in which case, then you can always come back and watch the watch party after the fact. I'll also be doing like wrap-up videos talking about like the highlights and doing like summarization videos for people that don't have the time to spend a full day watching all of November, or watching all of Star Wars Shatterpoint's stuff, watching all of Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff, and watching all of Star Wars Legion's stuff. Because it may be a whole day of just constant streams. Be really interesting to see how they do it. I do think they're going to sort of treat it a little bit like how the Adepticon panel goes, in that they just give you all the highlights, and it'll be maybe a multi-hour thing. If it's just like a 2-hour, boom, here's everything, then we'll stream the whole thing. We'll watch party the whole thing. But if it's multiple events broken down over an entire day's worth of time, then so be it. With as few new products as they've kind of been announcing lately, new as in not reprints, but all new products, there have been relatively few this year. Again, that's because of reprints and repackaging and the priorities shifting, and that's that's fine. But if there's also very few new products announced this time, I'm going to be very curious what that means for next Adepticon. Although they have made promises that next Adepticon is going to knock your socks off, so I guess we'll see. Well, those are my words, but they've said that it's going to be a big deal, so we'll see. I'll be there. I'm going to try and do kind of cool, fun stuff at next Adepticon as well, but it's going to be pretty exciting. I want to know your predictions for Ministravaganza, and regardless of whatever game you play, what are you hoping to see? What do you think they're going to announce? And are you as shocked as I am that they're only doing one day this year? It's going to be very interesting. All right, that's going to do it for today's video. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make this whole channel possible. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all, and always wash your socks.